What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. This one I'm going to go in over 10 players that I have listed as must-avoids and are players that I'm generally just looking to not draft in any of my fantasy football drafts this season. Figured I'd get this video out to you guys on Saturday, August 26th, that you guys can really use that in what should be a really big weekend for fantasy football drafts. Obviously, this weekend and then next weekend being Labor Day weekend are going to be two of the biggest weekends for you guys to use. So make sure that you guys take these players into account. Last Saturday, I put out a video going over 15 must draft players as well, so I highly recommend you go watch that one. Should be really useful in terms of giving you guys a list of players that you should be targeting and then players you should be avoiding in your drafts. So really hope I can do everything I can to help you guys win your drafts this season, win your leagues. If you have any players that I didn't mention that you felt I should have, please let me know in the comments. If you want my opinion on anybody, feel free to ask me in the comments. I love interacting with you guys. I'll respond to every single comment. If you disagree with any of my 10 players here, let me know. Let's see if we can come to a consensus there and really just have a lot of fun talking fantasy. So yeah, with that, let's just get into the first player here. So starting us off with a pretty tough one here, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is an absolutely fantastic fantasy football and regular quarterback, and he's almost certainly going to finish as a top 5 quarterback in fantasy football this season. In fact, by my rankings, he is my quarterback 1 at this point in time. But really just the problem is his draft cost. He's currently going 15th overall on Fantasy Pros with their consensus ADP. And I personally think that Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts are both just as good, if not potentially better this season. I don't really have any strong preference over which one of the 3 guys I draft this season, and those 2 go at 22nd and 23rd overall respectively. That being said, you can just get those guys 7 or 8 picks later than Patrick Mahomes, and it just doesn't make sense for me to be reaching for Patrick Mahomes in the early to middle part of the first round. Personally, I generally want to be waiting until about the 3rd round to be even drafting one of these 3 quarterbacks, so I don't really love the value of any of those 3 right now, but taking Patrick Mahomes in the early seconds is just going to really put you a bit behind the 8 ball at the more important positions, running back and wide receiver, and I really just don't want to be taking any of them in round 2, and if I'm going to, it's got to be at the end of round 2. So if Mahomes makes it to the end of round 2, I think that's totally fine, but taking him at pick 15 is just way too early for me, and I don't find myself to really drafting him anywhere right now. Next up is Travis Etienne. Obviously, Travis Etienne's an extremely talented running back. He was a first-round pick for a reason, and he's shown that he can be a really explosive player. He's probably going to average around 5 yards per carry on the season, and he's probably going to get about 200 touches as well, maybe 250, and he'll be a really productive player on the touches that he gets, but he's going to cede goal line work to Tank Bigsby, a guy that they did bring in to really take over that role. They've talked about wanting to use Bigsby in short yardage situations, and on top of that, they've really just sort of talked a lot this offseason about how they don't really see themselves throwing to the running back position that much at all this season. They really like their wide receiver talent, and why wouldn't they? Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones are a really competent wide receiver core, and then they like their tight ends as well. They just extended Evan Ingram to a big contract, so they like their pass catchers outside of the running back room. And on top of that, Tank Bigsby's a pretty capable pass catcher as well. I don't think it's a guarantee that Travis Etienne ends up being the de facto 3rd down back as well on this team. I think you could see a split there, and it's just going to be really difficult for Etienne to really produce high-end fantasy numbers if he's not going to score many touchdowns, and he's probably not going to catch many passes. He's currently being drafted 30th overall in drafts as the running back 11, and after having rerun all my projections, doing everything I can to really make sure that I'm taking everything into account on the upside for Travis Etienne, he comes out as my running back 29 right now. I do think I'd take him a little bit ahead of that, but that's just way below his consensus ADP. I can't imagine taking him in the 3rd round. I think he's more of like a 6th, 7th round pick kind of guy, and he's just not a guy that I'm touching at all this season. It's a hard pass for me at his ADP. Next up, the first wide receiver on this list is going to be DK Metcalf, another really extremely talented player. I don't have anything against DK Metcalf, the talent, but my main complaint with DK is that each of the last 2 seasons he's been outscored by his own teammate Tyler Lockett in fantasy football, and Tyler Lockett's currently being drafted as the wide receiver 28, while Metcalf goes as the wide receiver 15. Having statted out the Seahawks offense, Tyler Lockett actually comes out ahead of DK Metcalf again this season for me. He's my wide receiver 16, with DK Metcalf coming in at the 21st wide receiver for me. And on top of all that, JSN likely just really does lower the ceiling for both of these guys. Neither one of them's really got a shot at seeing a 30% target share in this offense anymore, and I think this is going to be an offense that spreads the ball around a little bit more than they have in the past. One of the better parts of the Seahawks offense that we could rely on for fantasy was just how condensed that target tree is. It was pretty much always Lockett, Metcalf, and then sprinkle in touches to the running backs and tight ends, but now you're going to have 3 wide receivers getting touches. DK Metcalf to me really is just going to finish as like a low-end wide receiver 2, and he's going to the 3rd round right now. It's just way too early for me. He's not a guy that I think really has top 10 upside unless there's an injury to the position, and granted, there already is. We have seen JSN go down with a wrist injury that'll keep him out a couple of weeks early in the season, but I'm more concerned about how things are going to be looking towards the end of the season, and JSN's going to carve out more and more of a role over the course of the entire season. DK Metcalf's production should sort of tailor off over the course of the season as well, and I want my team to be peaking come the fantasy playoffs as well. DK Metcalf's not going to be the kind of guy that does that, so it's just not somebody I find myself drafting at all. His 3rd round ADP is way too rich for me, and I just can't see myself doing it this season. Next up, we've got another running back in Breece Hall. Breece Hall is obviously another extremely talented player. He's extremely explosive. We saw how talented he can be last season prior to going down to with the ACL injury. But the issue with the Dalvin Cook signing is that the Jets are effectively telling us that Breece Hall is not 100%. They don't have extreme confidence in him being able to carry a full workhorse workload. And with Cook on a one-year deal and Breece Hall still not being 100% and obviously being the future of this team, the Jets have every incentive really to just run Dalvin Cook into the ground, give him a ton of touches, and make sure Breece Hall is ready to go next season. And towards the tailor end of the season, make sure Breece Hall is healthy and fresh for the playoffs that the Jets do intend to be in this season. Breece Hall is likely going to start really slow. He's probably going to be the 1B at the start of the season on a team that does have a really tough schedule to start the season. They play the Bills and the Cowboys to open up, and then they get the Patriots, the Broncos in there. It's a really tough schedule for the Jets to start the year, and I don't think they're going to be scoring a ton of points early on in the season. I don't think Breece Hall is going to be a guy that you're really comfortable starting any of the first 5 or 6 weeks, and then at that point, it's just a really risky draft proposition. You're hoping he takes over as the 1A, and I think it's probably going to be about a 50-50 split towards the second half of the season. And just after having started all that out, he comes out as my running back 30 in drafts this season. He's currently being drafted in the 4th round as the running back 16. That's just way too early for me. I don't want to be drafting Breece Hall and needing him. So if he's your running back 2, I think you're going to be in a really tough spot for the first half of the season. And I just don't find myself drafting Breece Hall anywhere right now. I just don't think he's really worth that risk right now. Next up, we've got the first tight end on this list, and TJ Hockenson. TJ Hockenson's a pretty safe bet to finish as a top 5 tight end, so I don't exactly hate his draft capital, but you're drafting him 42nd overall as the 3rd tight end off the board, and that's just a little bit too rich for me. He's had an injury-riddled offseason as well. He's missed most of training camp with an ear infection, and now he's gone down with some lower back stiffness. There are some rumors circulating around that this could be contract-related. He is in the final year of his rookie contract. He could be looking to get paid, and I still think he's going to be really healthy for the start of the season. I'm not all worried about the injury, but he's currently ranked as my tight end 5 behind, obviously, Kelsey, Andrews, and then you guys know how much I love Goddard, and then Darren Waller's climbed up my rankings lately. So being drafted as a tight end 5 and 20 spots ahead of Dallas Goddard, who was my tight end 3, it just doesn't make the value make sense for me. I think I'd much rather wait on the tight end position and take Dallas Goddard, or wait even more and take another guy who's going to take 2 later on, who are going to give you just a lot of upside. There are a lot of really good players going in the top 42, and being able to take one of those guys instead of TJ Hockenson, I think it's going to do a lot for your roster. And it's too early for me to be taking a tight end that I don't think really offers any sort of super high ceiling this season. Next up, I've got DeAndre Swift. It's just become really clear in Philadelphia that this is going to be a 3-man backfield. I think that Rashad Penny is still going to make this team, and he should factor in on 1st and 2nd down. And the Eagles have been really clear that Kenneth Gainwell is going to be seeing that 2-minute offense, that 4-minute offense. I think Kenneth Gainwell's got a shot to see goal line touches as well. He's going to be a guy they're going to use in the passing game. And couple all of that with Jalen Hurts likely being the primary goal line back in reality in Philadelphia, with how much they're going to run him towards the goal line. And on top of that, Jalen Hurts doesn't throw the ball to the running backs, so it's just not a very big pie to go around for these running backs to share. Not many catches to go around, not many touchdowns to go around, and even though he's extremely talented, he probably just needs an injury to occur for him to really pay off at his ADP. I think you'd need to see Penny or Gainwell to go down for Swift to really get enough volume to really be a reliable fantasy option, and he's currently being drafted as running back 27. I have him ranked as my running back 38, and I think he does have that upside, but I just think it's going to take an injury, and he's being drafted in the 6th round right now. That's just too early for me to be drafting a guy that I think needs an injury to really pay off at his ADP. Next up, we've got another tight end here in George Kittle. George Kittle's just being drafted way too early for me. He comes in as my tight end 8 in my rankings, and he's being drafted as the tight end 4 in the back of the 4th round. In all reality, he's probably the number 4 target in this 49ers offense behind Ayuk, CMC, and Debo, and it's just going to be really risky for you to play him on a week-to-week basis. He's probably going to need a touchdown to really pay off in a fantasy standpoint, and historically, touchdowns just really haven't been his strong suit. Last season, he broke his career high by putting up 7 touchdowns in just the last 4 games of the season. Prior to that, his career high in touchdowns was, I believe, 6. I just don't really see a season where he puts up 10 touchdowns this season, and that's really what he's going to need to pay off at his ADP. There are just way too many great players as well going in the back half of round 4. There are really great running backs like Miles Sanders there. There are really great wide receivers like Jerry Jeudy if he's still healthy. You've got Drake London, Terry McLaurin, plenty of really good wide receivers that I like in that range, and guys that I just would much rather have on my roster than George Kittle. So picking George Kittle there just I don't think offers you a huge positional advantage, and I love the players going around him. So I'm pretty much passing on George Kittle everywhere. I don't think I have him on any of my teams, even in best ball at this point, and it's just not something that I'm really excited about this season at all. So another obvious fade for me this season is going to be Odell Beckham Jr. I think he's currently going in the 8th round just purely based off of name recognition. OBJ is probably the number 4 target in this Ravens offense between Andrews, Zay Flowers, and Rashad Bateman. And on top of that, the Ravens are a historically run-heavy offense. I know we are projecting the Ravens to throw the ball much more this season, but needing to factor in that projection of an uptick to even give Odell a chance of producing at all just makes things a little bit scary for him. Odell's spoken openly about wanting to retire after this season, so he's pretty clearly got one foot out the door already. And even 2 seasons ago when he played for the Rams, he really wasn't all that useful for fantasy. He averaged like 11 fantasy points per game, I believe, over the second half of the season. That's not something that's really super exciting. There's no real upside there for me as a guy that's just going to be, at best, the number 3 target in the offense with how well Zay Flowers has showed out in the training camp sessions they've had. And I just don't really see any true value there. Odell Beckham just seems to be a guy that I don't really see a path to having him be a weekly reliable starter for you guys. So it really just does seem like a wasted draft pick in the 8th round. There's still some really good players there as well. And I just can't see myself drafting Odell at all this season. And I really wouldn't do it if I were you either. Another wide receiver on this list is another really talented one in Michael Pittman Jr., and as good as he is, the passing offense is just going to be really brutal in Indianapolis. We did see some nice things from Anthony Richardson over the course of this preseason, but he really just didn't show a very consistent ability to throw the ball downfield. He was 6 for 17 passing the ball for like 70 yards over the last half of his preseason outing in week 3 here, and I think there will be some spike weeks from Anthony Richardson. He's got a really pretty deep ball sometimes. There will be some spike weeks where he does hit Pittman for a nice deep touchdown, but Alec Pierce really does profile to be the deep threat in this offense anyway. I think that you're really just going to deal with an offense that's going to be a super low passing volume team, and I think it's going to be really tough for Anthony Richardson to even hit 3,000 passing yards this season. As broken as things were in Indianapolis last season, they did combine for over 3,800 passing yards as a unit. With all of that, Michael Pittman still couldn't become really a reliable weekly starter in fantasy football, and now you're going to see a decrease in volume, a decrease in production from the passing game overall. There is some added target competition as well with the addition of Josh Downs. This is just going to be a really murky wide receiver room as well. Pittman's going to be the clear one, but there's just not going to be enough volume to go around for any of these guys. He really comes in as my wide receiver 56 right now, and he's got an ADP of wide receiver 33, so I don't see a world where you're really excited about ever starting Michael Pittman Jr. this season, and as ADP, you're drafting him to be a starter for you in 3 wide receiver leagues, and I just can't see myself wanting to do that this season. And last but not least here, I've got Mike Evans. Mike Evans is clearly an elite talent. He's posted over 1,000 yards in every single year of his career so far, and I think he does have a chance to still potentially hit that 1,000-yard mark this season. But the Buccaneers passed the most in the NFL last season. That passing total is clearly going to drop this season to likely be a below-average passing offense in terms of attempts and yardage this season. There should be a much less efficient passing offense going from Hall of Fame quarterback Tom Brady to just a journeyman now at this point, Baker Mayfield, not a guy that I really expect to make anything work in Tampa Bay, and it's just going to be a lower passing volume, less efficient offense in Tampa Bay, and if anybody's going to be able to overcome the bad quarterback play in that offense, it's going to be Chris Godwin, a guy who's going to see a lot of his targets near the line of scrimmage, a guy who could sort of PPR his way to being relevant, but with Mike Evans, you're just going to need a really spike touchdown season from him. Obviously, Mike Evans is a talented enough guy that you could see a 10-touchdown season from him, but it could be a really rocky ride. He's probably not a guy that you're really going to be excited about starting. You're going to need a touchdown from him for him to pay off on a weekly basis, and I just don't really see him doing that on a regular basis this season in what should be a really bad Tampa Bay offense. He stats out as my wide receiver 54 right now, and he's being drafted in the 7th round as a wide receiver 30. That's just way too early for me. I don't want to be drafting Mike Evans needing to start him every single week, and that's what you're doing if you're drafting him in the 7th round. So I'd much rather take some other players that are going around him that I think are much better, and just let other people take the big name, high profile guy that's just in a much worse situation than what he's been in the past. So that'll do it for my 10 must-avoid players video this week. Up next, I'll be doing a final sleepers, breakouts, and bust video where I'll go over all the players that I think are poised to be sleepers, breakouts, or busts this season. Just sort of redoing, sort of summarizing those videos that I've done earlier in the offseason and sort of condensing it into a nice short list for you guys heading into your drafts. I really hope you guys dominate your drafts this weekend if you've got them. If you've got them next weekend, I wish you luck in those as well. If you guys have any questions for me, if you want any help at all, let me know in the comments. I'll be able to get back to you. I love interacting with you guys. It's a hell of a lot of fun. If this is your first time on the channel, I really hope you enjoyed what you saw here. If you want more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel. You can click the notification bell so you get notifications when more videos come out. There will be a video that comes out every single day throughout the entire course of the rest of the off season, and then once the regular season starts as well, you'll be getting several videos a week as well to help you guys win your league. So if you like this video as well, please do give it a thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm. It really helps me know that I'm doing a good job and helps me know that you guys want to see more content like this. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.